And good evening, everybody, and welcome aboard to our final edition of Hawk Talk for the year from the Indiana Elks Lodge here in Indiana on South 13th Street. Jack Benedict here with Coach Paul Tortorella. We have a special guest, one of the guys coming with us in the second half hour of our 1 hour show. Good to have you with us here as we get ready for this final edition. We're going to look at the season, we're going to look at the future, and we're going to see what's going to happen here with IUP football. Coach, first of all, it was good to end the season on the note that you did. Very convincing win over Shippensburg, and just give us your overall assessment of that particular day on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, we came out, and I think, the week off was actually pretty good. We were really fresh, looked a lot faster than Ship. They played last week, and we got on them early, controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And, at the end of the half, the field goal was a good momentum. We had lost the momentum a little bit when they hit that big play on fourth down, but we were able to get a field goal there at the end of the half to go back up by 3 scores, and just something little like that goes a long way. And then in the second half, we completely shut them down. I think they had 10 yards total offense in the second half. Yeah. Our defense the last 4 weeks have been playing high level, and it's a shame that we're not able to go out and play in a playoff game with this defense, because this defense is pretty good. Yeah,
and it got better as the season went on.
Absolutely.
Only gave up 15 points a game. Offensively, you got the running game going, right. Over 300 rushing yards. That was great to see.
Well, people don't like hearing this, but it's the first game we had where we had Monaco and Hauser healthy and playing in the same game. So our number 1 and number 2 running backs going into the season only played together the last game of the year, and they both had close to 100 yards. Karst had 100 yards. We rushed for 300. And JD, younger, had done a good job all year, but it's tough when you're the only running back that's healthy.
Right. Yeah.
We looked a lot different at running back when we had 2 guys, switching in and out. And not playing the whole game, and they were, again, they were pretty fresh because they haven't run the ball a whole lot this year. Like, I would have loved to have been able to see both Monaco and obviously Adam full go, from start to finish in the season. If that was the case, JD might not even have been playing on offense.
Been on the defensive side, yeah. And of course, he came up lane during the course of the week, which was unfortunate. Getting with Karst, Hunter, what a interesting career, a short career because of the injury his first year, and then this year a little bit. But he had a great game, and he showed a couple of times, I think Pat had mentioned, about how he went into second gear on some of the – he's a leading rusher the other day, and both over 100 yards passing and rushing. So just a shame that he could be around a lot longer.
Well, that's what we were saying. He's a really – you have certain types of quarterbacks. We had Lenny Williams, who was a – great athlete who became a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. We've had the drop-back quarterbacks with Maxwell, Woodbury, and Sexton. They were drop-back guys. And now we had Karst, who's a little bit of both, but more he's a really good running quarterback. He probably could have played wide out for us, to be honest with you. But, passing-wise, statistically, he's had a pretty good two-year run here. He missed 3 games last year. He missed a game and a half this year. His quarterback rating, which, some people say it doesn't mean anything. Some people say it's like the only thing that does matter, is pretty good. He'd like to have 2 throws back. Well, really 1 throw back, the interception. Mm-hmm. The second interception went through Massey's hands. So really he had an interception, but was very good on third down, rushed for over 100 yards, made some good throws, and then once we got up by 3 or 4 scores in the second half, we really weren't into throwing the ball.
Right. Yeah.
And we were just, making first down after first down, running the ball. And they people don't realize with how the clock is. If you're playing really good defense and you're controlling the ball a little bit on offense, Shippensburg only ran 41 plays.
Is that,
people don't realize that the only time the clock stops, other than the last 2 minutes and a half, is on a change of possession or an incomplete pass. It doesn't even stop when you run out of bounds. Mm-hmm. So people are not really understanding football's changed so much that it's not as long of a game. You don't get anywhere. We've averaged throughout the season 9 series is a game. Back in the old days, it used to be 11, maybe sometimes 12 series is a game. Now we're down to 9 series is a game. And if you have a series where you have a 7, 8, 9 play drive, you might be down to 8. So you've got to make do when you do get the ball because the clock's always running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there have been times where we've had a series for each team.
And that's it. And the quarter's over.
The whole quarter. Let's look on the defensive side with Garrett Cox. These guys were players of the game. And, of course, he just had the 1-year eligibility after 3 great years at Millersville. Just came a little bit shy of 100 tackles on the year. But what an addition he was because you lost a really good linebacker the previous year.
Well, just as great of a player he is, he's just as great of a kid. No nonsense, quiet. Really, he texted me on Sunday, and he kind of thanking me for having him.
Oh wow!
And the way he put it was, this program, people should not take this program for granted in regards to, obviously, not anything against Millersville, and he didn't mean that.
Right. He
just felt like this was the best year of football he's ever had, and that he just hopes that our players don't take for granted playing here at IUP. He's a great player, great kid, comes from a great family, and obviously only having him 1 year. Sometimes you only get a guy for 1 year and he doesn't play very well until the end of it. He's played well from day one.
Yeah, he was solid. And a great academic, too.
Yes.
I asked you, I think it was on the pregame last week, if you described or had a word maybe to describe your particular team. And I think you used resilient as what this team was, right?
Well, I would think there's 2 things that stand out. We had our last team meeting today, that resiliency and a lot of good leadership. When you lose a game like we lost at Edinboro and like how we lost at Cal, PA, and you're an 18 to 22-year-old college student athlete, that's a tough pill to swallow, when the game's over and you think you won both of them. And for our players to continue to stay the course, I think the last 2 weeks of the season, we outscored our opponents something like 70 to 14. They very easily after the, how many times can you say we blocked the game-winning field goal and lost the game? And we had a 96-yard drive to score the touchdown to take the lead that took 12 minutes. And to explain that to people and tell them that you lost the game, they're befuddled by it. So for young kids to be able to handle that, they have to have great leadership, which we had, and they have to be resilient. And then here's the other thing that people don't realize. When you have tough situations where you lose a couple games that kind of in a fashion that I've been doing this for 40 years, I've never seen anything like those last 2 losses. That leads to some problems sometimes. Players start to get frustrated. They start, doing things they're not supposed to be doing. We had none of that. We had not one player shut it down. We had guys that were injured trying to do everything. Darius Bruce had a collarbone injury. He went and got a second opinion because he had never missed a game at IUP to try to play in this last game, and it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Gerald Comedy had a bad knee. He wanted to play so bad that he actually played the first series. Hilton Ridley had a very bad high ankle sprain. He ended up playing a little bit. Usually in those scenarios, they're shutting it down. Mm-hmm. They're not going to play in that last game because, in essence, you're playing for pride. You're playing for the program. You're not going to be in the playoffs. It's not a playoff-type game. but we had guys trying to play, that were seniors and wanted to play their last game. And we had a lot of guys that were injured that practiced the last week and played in the game where they could have maybe, checked out, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, as coaches, very proud of how those guys stayed the course, because I can guarantee there won't be a team ever to play at IUP that had to lose 3 games the way we lost them.
Yeah. Ended up 7-3, still winning season, but tough to go out that particular way. Take a look at your offense. I know you meet with the players, you meet with the coaches and everything in the process after the season. And take a look at the offense. They're going to lose some key people, so you're going to have to shore them. In fact, haven't had to really delve into the offensive line for a while.
Right. Well, the thing that was good was, Okora ended up playing a bunch here at the end. Koval, who, missed the second half of the season. Chance, Shaw. We had some guys end up playing that may not have played if we didn't have some injuries. Mm-hmm. We've got a bunch of young offensive linemen. So, they're going to be younger and least experience, not have as much as experience. I thought, we watch everybody's offensive line because, when we're on defense, we're looking at everybody's offense. I would think that we probably had the best offensive line in the league, personally, because we had a lot of guys that have been playing a lot of football there. Leighton, Comedy. Chance is a 2-year starter. He has another year. Gerald's a 4-year starter. Nelson came in there and did a great job the last 4 weeks of the season. So, and then Okoro ended up starting and playing the whole game Saturday and played pretty much the whole game at Gannon. Mm-hmm. So we've got some younger guys that actually played this year that may not have played if we didn't have some injuries. So, like I told Greg after the game Saturday, you can't keep them forever. So eventually they're going to use their eligibility and graduate. So we do have we took a bunch of young offensive linemen last recruiting season that we feel good about, but they're young and they haven't played.
Yeah. One of the spots maybe that's kind of overlooked that's so important is your center. And you mentioned about Chad Leighton. Your backup was Matthew Nelson. And
right.
Then, as you mentioned, he switched over to guard, and he's not coming back, graduating and so on. Where do you find centers these days?
Well,
it's such an important part. I think that's really
they're hard. Out of all offensive linemen, they're hard to find, and really guys that ended up being your center get converted to center once they get here. A lot of the times. They were guards in high school, and we had to transition them and train them to be centers. It's hard to go get high school, centers, so to speak, right out of high school. Everybody has that problem. That we've had Leighton as a 2-year starter. We had Petropola as a 3-year starter at center. So, but last year going into the season, Chad was a backup, and it was his first year starting, so he's had a good 2-year career as a center, as a starting center. So it's a different position in the offensive line because you got to make a lot of calls, and you obviously got to snap the ball. Whereas if you're a guard and tackle, you're not worried about making calls, and you're not snapping the ball.
I don't think we had a bad snap, did we?
Very minimal, and we were talking about our long snappers and short snappers. We had one snap the whole season, and it wasn't really even that bad. That wasn't a good snap. It was at Gannon on a punt, and they put a little pressure on, and that's really Leanhair's only long snap that wasn't right there. And Laguerre on field goal extra point, we didn't have one bad snap. So we're fortunate. Our 4 specialists who are juniors that'll be back next year are as good as any in the league. When you look at a punter, a place kicker, and a short snapper and a long snapper, we're as good as anybody in the region when you look at those four positions.
Yeah, Ryan Legier and Braden Landher, the snappers. Well, we'll talk about defense. We'll talk about the future. We have one of our senior players here, veteran player, that's going to be joining us, Chuck Ingram, here in just a little bit. So stay with us. We're in the final edition of Hawk Talk. We're at the Indiana Elks. We'll be back with the coach after U92.5 FM and also Renda Digital TV.
Located along the beautiful Allegheny River in downtown Katanning, the Meredith Inn provides an atmosphere of casual, upscale dining. If you're looking for the perfect venue for your next event, look no further than the Meredith Inn. Family gatherings, wedding rehearsal, business meeting, or just a night out. It's perfect for all occasions, and their menu has something for everyone, leaving all full and satisfied. For more information, visit them at themeredithinn.com or call 724-793-7364.
Looking for food, fun, and entertainment with a purpose? The Elks Lodge 931 in Indiana is more than a place. It's community. Become an Elk. Enjoy food, fun, bowling, music, events, and a banquet hall. Distinctly American, Elks are rooted in brotherly love, charity, fidelity, and justice. Annually giving tens of thousands to local charities. We give back not at the Elks, as an Elk. See them at 475 South 13th Street and on Facebook today. Elks Lodge 931, where community and compassion meet.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Elks Lodge. Here we are, South 13th Street, Indiana, and Hawk Talk in our final edition. IUP football with Coach Paul Tortorella, finishing the year winning note, 7-3 on the season. We'll talk about playoffs, that sort of thing, a little bit later on. I talked about the offense on the defensive side well, tell me how you had alluded to a little bit how they improved over the season, because there were some spots you had to fill linebacker spots, you had secondary was coming back, but there were some question marks there. Your overall assessment.
Like I said, the last really since the Seton Hill game, we've pretty much played lights out the last 4 weeks on defense. I think we're averaging giving up 10 points a game the last 4 weeks. Our defensive line, who we only have one senior who had a great year in Fazell, has really made a big improvement. We used 2 or 3 inside down guys. They had really good seasons. Our defensive ends played very well. We had a true freshman starting at defensive end. Probably the biggest improvement from last year's team to this year's team was probably in the defensive line, defensive tackle and defensive end. And then at linebacker, we obviously brought Garrett in, and then we moved Chuck to linebacker. And, so if you're looking at 2 linebackers in the league, I would think that, we're as good as anybody in the conference at linebacker. And then we had, a bunch of guys back in the secondary, Darius Bruce, Frazier, Howard, Towler, Noah Johnston, that have played a lot before. Obviously, Darius and Howard are seniors, but we played a lot of younger guys, Barron and Ian McGatcher and Waddell. Tamir O'Neal played on Saturday a little bit. He's a true freshman. So the only true freshman that used his year eligibility was Goodwin. Everybody else, we saved their year. A couple guys played 1 or 2 games. Wysocki, the D lineman, played early. We saved his year because he had a shoulder injury. He could have played later in the year, but we decided to keep his red shirt. So, on paper, the only defensive lineman we lose is Fazell. Obviously the 2 linebackers are seniors, but we had 2 guys behind them, Santos and and Strickland, who's been in the program, and also a young linebacker from DeMatha Catholic, Antonio Green. So, and then, like I said, we'll have Frazier back and a bunch of those young corners, and Noah Johnston had a good year as a sophomore at safety. So we don't get hit as hard on defense as we do on offense with graduation.
Yeah. One of the things that I found out in looking at the overall stats in the conference, the top 5 tacklers in the conference, we got 3 of them here.
Right.
Cox, Chuck,
And
Johnston.
Yeah.
That's 3 out of the top 5 in the entire conference. Will you, a question here, will you rely more on the portal this year than the recruits, or will you balance it out or play it by ear?
Yeah, I mean, we don't change from year. We kind of have the same philosophy every year. If we have a position of need, like tomorrow, then you obviously are looking for that position in the portal. If we have guys at those, like when you go to take a guy out of the portal, he better come in and be an instant starter. So if you don't have guys ready to start at those positions, that's when you look in the portal for certain areas. Like at wideout, Massey, we lost 2 wideouts in the spring to injury. So we took Massey and Keenan Brown out of the portal. Keenan unfortunately got hurt. So like people don't realize, not only did we have major injuries at running back, we had 4 wideouts that were injured throughout, either spring ball or preseason practice or during the season. When you look at Omar Stewart, Zach Boyd, Keenan Brown, and Ridley, those are 4 guys that we would have been counting on in this season, and really only one of them could play, and Ridley only played half the year. He missed probably 50% of the games.
Yeah.
So, that's how we use the portal. Like, there's some teams that change their team every year, and there's some teams that lose 1 million guys, so they have to, do what they do.
They don't have a choice.
Yeah, so, if we've got guys that we feel good about at a certain position that have played for us, and we think they're ready to be starters, we don't feel like it's necessary to go into the portal. But if we need a guy to come in and start right away at a certain position, because we got young players at those positions that aren't quite ready, that's when we'll look in the portal.
Just as a follow-up to Brown, the young man from Colorado, you have contact with him?
Yeah, he's
coming back?
He's rehabbing. He got his Achilles surgery. He'll be rehabbing back in Colorado this spring, and then hopefully, if everything goes well and he's 100%, he should be back in the fall.
Okay, that in itself is good news. This is kind of a follow-up, and it's a question from the fan. Coach, how do you balance the use of scholarship dollars for freshmen versus the portal? How does that?
It's a delicate balance. You have to watch that you don't really overload one side or the other. And then how many players you're losing. Like last year, we only lost 8 seniors. This year, we're losing 16. So we'll be looking at more height. Like we didn't sign a huge high school class last year, but we'll sign more guys out of high school. We may even go in the state of Maryland and try to recruit that, because there's a lot of good players in that state, and even though it costs more money, it's like everybody talks about Kutztown. Half of their team is from New Jersey and Delaware. So whether it's, it is out of state, I don't know if it counts as out of state for them, but they have 25 kids from New Jersey and I think 14 from Delaware. And they only have 2 guys from the portal on their whole team, transfers.
Two.
And the reason is they're not only just recruiting the state of Pennsylvania. They have 20 seniors come out every year because they're recruiting from Harrisburg all the way out east to Philly. They're recruiting New Jersey, and they're recruiting Delaware. So they're drawing from 3 states, which is a big difference than one state. And we recruit the whole state of Pennsylvania. They only recruit from Harrisburg out east. They don't even come out this way. So they're only recruiting half the state, and then they're recruiting New Jersey and Delaware. And, those are things you got to look at and say, well, what should we be doing? Well, we're probably going to have to go back into Maryland and recruit high school kids from down in Maryland and go that route, even though it's obviously the scholarship dollars are much more when you recruit an out-of-state guy. We've had a lot of success with the guys we have taken from Maryland, When you go back, Easterling, Damon Lloyd, McLean, and even Tillman from Northern Virginia, they've all been really good players.
Boy, that's 3 really good players.
Yeah, you just can't go into Maryland and recruit like 5 guys and sign 5 kids from the state of Maryland. You won't have enough money to sign kids from your own state.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna recruit Maryland. There's a big population, not a lot of Division II. The West Virginia Conference makes a living off the state of Maryland. Like the state of Maryland probably keeps those schools in business, to be honest with you, because the population in the state of Maryland it's huge. Mm-hmm. You go to that same school in Western PA where there's maybe 300 kids in that senior class in Western. That same school in Maryland has 900 seniors. They're building schools in Maryland. We're shutting schools down in Western Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we've shifted a lot of our recruiting a lot more to the east and the central PA because that's where the population is in those schools. It's simple. If you're at a school and they have 2 prospects in Western PA at a high school, there's probably 4 at that same high school in Eastern PA because it's strictly numbers. They got more students. So you can't, let's just put it this way. You can't make a living like in the old days and just think you're going to recruit Western Pennsylvania and build your team. Now, we have a lot of good Western Pennsylvania players, but you're not going to, you can't do that anymore. The playing field has changed tremendously. With Duquesne, St. Francis, Robert Morris, they're, obviously recruiting good players in Western Pennsylvania, and they're technically FCS Division I. Mm-hmm. So you got to go. It doesn't do you any good to recruit guys you can't get to come to your school anyway. Like that's called practice recruiting, we call it. Like you go ahead and do it all you want, you're not going to get them. So you better recruit the areas and the players where the competition isn't Division I schools. And like down in Maryland, you'll be battling, Shepherd, Fairmont, Charleston, the West Virginia schools, because there's only 2 schools in Division II that play football in the state of Maryland. So
it's incredible.
And there's a lot more players in the state of Maryland because the population's high.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question from a fan. Another knee injury on Saturday. Will the university address the field during the off season?
I sure hope so, but again, that's above my pay grade. It was a turf injury. He never got hit. I mean, he was running and
just went down.
He blew his ACL out.
Was that what it was?
He's got an appointment tomorrow, but that's the early prognosis. Yeah. And there was absolutely no contact at all.
Well, of course, that's what we were talking about Brown earlier in the year. Same deal.
Right.
With no contact.
Not contact,
yeah,
right.
Not at all. Let's see. I've got a bunch of questions here from some of the fans who have sent them to me and said pass it along to the coach. Will you try to recruit a kicker who can put the ball in the end zone on kickoffs?
Oh, yeah. I mean, think that the thing that people, that's important. Like Seton Hill's guy was really good, kicking it into the end zone and so forth. But the thing with Nick is what he doesn't get in depth, he kicks the ball very high. So at the end of the day, we have not given up a return past the 35-yard line, I believe Coach Bryce told me this morning. Part of it is good coverage. Mm-hmm. The ball's getting kicked where you want it kicked. Like you don't just kick it. Like we're kicking it to the left or to the right, and we're covering it. And there's more to it than just kick it anywhere and go cover.
There's strategies.
Yeah. So obviously, hey, if you got a guy that's going to kick it out of the end zone every time, it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about covering. But that's easier said than done. And you're kicking into the wind and so forth. But we've done a good job covering kicks, but the hang time is important. You're sometimes better kicking the ball 3 or 4 yards shorter, but it's in the air a second or two longer. Like his kicks are very high, so it allows our coverage team to get down and close the cushion. And like I said, Coach Bryce had said we have not given up an actual kick return where the ball was kicked inside the 5-yard line past the 35-yard line. So that's pretty good. I think we were way above the line, our kickoff return versus our opponent's kickoff return in games. Very rarely have we played a game where we gave up average more yards given up on coverage than we did our kick return. Like Saturday, we only had 2 kick returns. When you play good defense, you don't have to run back kicks a lot. Well, people will be like, well, I don't remember it being great. Well, it wasn't, but we still averaged 24 yards a return. And our opponents averaged 12 yards a return on Saturday. So there's a lot of hidden yardage there. And then with punt return, when we had Frazier, he got dinged up a little bit in the first half, so we pulled him off a punt return, and Campbell went in there and did a great job. There were some tough catches on our. I think he had 7 catches that were hard balls to catch. With Frazier, I think he's averaging close to 18 yards a return, Frazier.
Yeah.
And we gave up 1 punt return against Slippery Rock that hurt us. It was about a 40-yard return, and it led to a touchdown in the first half. But other than that play, our coverage teams have been really good.
You know what we're seeing? I read an article not too long ago about how many outstanding kickers there are in the WPIAL. Many of them soccer players.
Yeah, I mean that's where just think about it. Everybody I don't know when I've seen the last straight on kicker. It's probably been at least 10 years ago, maybe even longer. So if you're a soccer-style kicker, you probably been playing soccer. Like Andracey was a really good football player, actually. He was like a defensive back and a runner. I mean, he was a pretty good actual position player, and he was a big soccer player. So that's usually what the case is. So, I mean, our kicking game was really good this year. Nick hit a big 42-yard field goal the other day. We've blocked some field goals. So we had a pretty good year in the kicking game.
Yeah. His 49-yarder, I think, is a third
at Edinburgh. Yeah,
third longest in the conference this year. All right, we're going to be back with Coach Tortorella. We're going to hear from Chuck Ingram coming up here in just a few minutes, and we'll talk more IUP football. It's Hawk Talk from the Indiana Elks on U92.5 FM and Renda Digital TV.
Since 1936, Walker Motor Company in downtown Katanning has served Western Pennsylvania with its no-pressure, no-hassle environment, bringing the kind of family-owned and oriented dealer experience that everyone wants when it comes time to purchase a new or used vehicle. Whether you are looking for a new GMC, pre-owned vehicle, service, or collision repair, come on over to Walker Motors and see why they've been voted #1 for 6 straight years. Visit them at walker-motor.com.
Looking for food, fun, and entertainment with a purpose? The Elks Lodge 931 in Indiana is more than a place. It's community. Become an Elk. Enjoy food, fun, bowling, music, events, and a banquet hall. Distinctly American, Elks are rooted in brotherly love, charity, fidelity, and justice. Annually giving tens of thousands to local charities, we give back not at the Elks, as an Elk. See them at 475 South 13th Street and on Facebook today. Elks Lodge 931, where community and compassion meet.
Paul Tortorella. Chuck Ingram was with us here. Good to have him come along. One of the stalwarts for the last 4 or 5 years. Been in the IUP program for a long time. Chuck, good to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming in. And we certainly got the word from Coach that he was going to bring a veteran player. So why not? You've been in the program how many years now?
Yeah, 5 years, I believe, since 2020, since in the midst of COVID.
Of the COVID year.
COVID year, yeah.
Let me give it and I won't embarrass you, but this is a little background on you. It's from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. Played in 11 games in the secondary as a redshirt junior. Tallied 24 tackles there. He had 4 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble. A lot of different, as a redshirt sophomore, saw action in all 12 games in the IUP secondary. He had 40 42 tackles, logged an interception against Shippensburg, and in high school you were a two-time All-Catholic League running back. It's amazing how many running backs end up on the defensive side, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you prefer?
I would say defense, That's just what I always played. I always was told I was better at, so I prefer defense.
Okay, when Coach comes to you, or tell me about how when Coach came to you and said, "Listen, we need a linebacker." You've been in the secondary, you're accustomed to that particular position. How did that all come about? How did you absorb that? Because you had a great year.
I was just willing to do whatever would make the team better, Coach Smitty kind of came to me and asked, how would you feel about playing linebacker? And I said, yeah, I'm up for it, And I feel like it kind of fits my play style anyway, so, anything for the team.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's really ironic that Garrett Cox and yourself and Noah Johnson were three of the top out of the top 5 tacklers in not just the West, but the entire conference. Were you aware of anything like that?
I mean, yeah, kind of, sort of, but, we would just go out there and just play our game, and they do a good job, like, the play calling and performing. I mean, preparing for the game, and, and they put us in the right spots, so it's kind of just easy to get those with your teammates.
Coach had to call upon you to switch positions for the last game with Darius out, huh? So you went to the star position. So but you handled all these years. You could handle anything, couldn't you?
Yeah, they asked me to switch back to the star, because we had some guys dinged up with Ja and Bruce being out. So, it was just going back to like my first year. So just kind of got back to my roots, going back to the star.
Yeah. I was going to ask, I always like to, how did you come across this young fellow?
Well, wasn't Kyrie Cooper?
Kyrie Coop.
I don't know if you remember Kyrie Cooper, played corner for us.
Yeah.
He was coaching at Chuck's High School, and he recommended him to us. And he was like,
there you go.
Coach Tort, this is the guy. He'd be great for IUP. Believe me, he put the stamp on him. We recruited him. We really liked him. We liked the way he played, and that was basically, from start from then to now.
To now.
And he's gotten better and better, and he's a great teammate. Great. I mean, like these guys have been in a program for 5 years and sometimes 6 years. They're not like. You don't have bad people in your program for 5 and 6 years. Like they're quality individuals, and like him, and so they're great teammates. Not only are they good players, but they're great teammates. He's on the leadership council. Like I said, without our leadership this year, things could have really unraveled with a couple of the tough losses that we had, with frustration and getting discouraged, and it never happened. And it's really because of our senior leadership. And Chuck, like I said, is one of the big guys on the leadership council. And they just stayed the course and were very resilient. And like I told the team today, we're in this to win football games. Absolutely, that's why they keep score. But also, we want to have good people. And that whole crew of seniors, I used to say when my kids were little, I'd leave my kids with them. Well, I don't have to say it now, but I'd leave my kids when they were little with all those guys.
Yeah. Chuck, look back on your career and maybe a particular moment or just the overall thought of why you came to IUP and how this all came about. Because this obviously was a big part of your life, going to be moving on, been here 5 years or so. Well, what comes to mind?
On like why I came to IUP?
Yeah, in the first place, I think that's kind of thing, and then some, even maybe a moment in a game too that comes to mind for you. But why did you come here in the first place?
Well, when I first visited, it just kind of felt like at home. So I visited over the winter break, so it was like nobody up here, like but the football team.
Just us guys.
Yeah, just the guys, So. And it still felt like home, even though it wasn't really many people on campus. They welcomed me in, just felt good. I met Coach Tort, told me all good things, and and it was a winning program, so that was an important piece too. So I just wanted to be a part of something good.
Were you aware of IUP at all before, or maybe from what Coach said about it?
Yeah, from my high school coaches, I would hear about it from them, and then other people who went there, so I didn't really know much, but once I really started to get to know more, I was all in.
What's your major?
Exercise science is my major.
What are you looking to now once you leave IUP?
Well, I was looking forward to going back to school. In the long run, I want to do physical therapy, so I had to look somewhere else because IUP doesn't offer physical therapy. So
I would think that you had a lot of great relationships with your teammates and everything over the years.
Oh yeah. I met a lot of good people, built a lot of good bonds, brotherhood. Been here for 5 years and with the other guys, so we have a good connection.
Back to my question: is there one moment in any one game that stands out? It was a highlight. I'm sure you had.
Winning the PSAC chip, that was one of the best moments here. One I won't forget. I've never really won a championship in my life like that, so that's really gonna always stand out to me.
So that never happened in high school?
Nah, I never won my conference in high school. No.
Yeah.
Well, his freshman year, was it when you had the 2 picks at Slippery Rock?
That's another moment too.
There you go.
2 picks my
Up
freshman year at Slippery Rock.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's certainly one of those moments that we'll remember, and I know that you'll remember. The season this year was tough for everybody, but in the bottom line is it was a winning season. It was 7-3. It continues a tradition. In what way do you think, as you go out into the real world, how you can help spread the word about IUP?
One thing I can say about IUP that the coaches and the people here they're going to build you to become a better person and a better man at the end of the day. So obviously they're a winning program. So if you want to win, come here. But if you want to be a better man too, they could also provide that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to it than just being on the football field, isn't there?
Well, you only play 11, 12, 13. I don't know if in 4 years here he's probably played in like close to 50 games, 45, games. So that's 45 Saturdays, but there's a lot more Saturdays when you're here for 5 years. And again, this group of seniors have been just outstanding. Never a problem. About 12 or 13 of them came in together during the COVID. That was the other thing. This group, like their first year in college was during COVID. Like we weren't even playing. They had to go to take college classes. It was online. We were just having like a couple hours a week workouts. They had to have math. I mean, it was tough. Their first semester of college the school was pretty much shut down.
That had to be unbelievable for students.
For a true freshman.
For a true freshman.
It's their first time leaving home. Yeah. You couldn't. That's as tough as it would get. And we kept most of those guys. Most of those guys are still here.
Still around. Yeah. How did you? How did you handle that?
It was different, coming out of high school, coming right into it, not being able to play football, but we would still practice and work out together, so we were building a bond and building a brotherhood, and I was getting to know everybody. And I just knew that we had something special was building something special over that time, getting to know everybody.
Yeah. I think it was a tough time for all of us,
right,
in different ways. But fortunately, you survived that, and able to prevail to, as Coach said, where we are today.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you would change or not? In coming to IUP, everything kind of fell into place for you?
Nah, I believe everything happens for a reason, and I live with no regrets, so I wouldn't change nothing. And I want to thank everybody at IUP for the opportunities I have and everything I've accomplished.
Yeah, well, I know can speak for a lot of these folks, all the fans here, that we've really appreciated your efforts here over the years. And hey, best of luck in the future. I'm glad Coach could get you on.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Chuck Ingram. Great career here at IUP, and he'll be a he'll be a big asset to the community and in life, that's for sure. And we'll be back with a fourth quarter coming up. Hawk Talk here at the Elks Lodge, and we're coming back on Renda Digital TV and U92.5 FM.
Located along the beautiful Allegheny River in downtown Katanning, the Meredith Inn provides an atmosphere of casual upscale dining. If you're looking for the perfect venue for your next event, look no further than the Meredith Inn. Family gatherings, wedding rehearsal, business meeting, or just a night out. It's perfect for all occasions, and their menu has something for everyone, leaving all full and satisfied. For more information, visit them at themeredithinn.com or call 724-793-7364.
Since 1936, Walker Motor Company in downtown Katanning has served Western Pennsylvania with its no-pressure, no-hassle environment, bringing the kind of family-owned and oriented dealer experience that everyone wants when it comes time to purchase a new or used vehicle. Whether you are looking for a new GMC, pre-owned vehicle, service, or collision repair, come on over to Walker Motors and see why they've been voted #1 for 6 straight years. Visit them at walker-motor.com.
We're back with you for the fourth quarter of our final segment here, our final show, and want to thank, just take a few moments and thank everybody affiliated with the Indiana Elks Lodge and everything they've provided this year, including, even have the menu here, so anybody want a menu, I have it for you. But they've done a great job, and the fans that have come here and the people who have listened, I get a lot of reaction, Coach, from players and their parents and whatever about this particular program. You're keeping us up to date on IUP football. Okay, I've got some questions here from the fans. Here's one. Is next year's quarterback on the current roster? It's tough to replace a quarterback, but Karst Hunter is done.
Well, we have 3 on the roster right now. Obviously, Nico, who's played in, we talked about it today, I believe, started 3 games last year, finished the second half against Lock Haven this year, and started at Millersville, so he has some starting experience. We have 2 freshmen, one a true freshman, one a redshirt freshman. So, going into the spring, those 3 will be in the hunt. But it's always like any position, you're always looking to bolster the roster, and competition, kind of breeds success. But we do like the guys that we have in the program right now, and one has played. So, we'll just see how it pans out 300 or 280 days from now.
But who's counting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's one from a fan. Do you expect Maurice Massey to return?
Yeah. I mean, he's got 1 more year left because of the clock rule in Division I. He can't really go Division I, or I'm sure he would have a lot of people, calling him and knocking down his door. But he has to stay Division II. So he has told us that he wants to stay here and play 1 more year. So that's obviously a big part of the offense. And I would think if he would come back next year and be playing for us, he'd probably be one of the top 3 or 4 receivers in the country at the D2 level.
Now, by the way, I think you alluded to this. How you meet with the players. You meet with them individually and the coaches and collectively, or is it a combination? How do you handle it?
Yeah, I mean, when the season's over, each player meets with their position coach. So obviously if you're coaching quarterbacks, or if you have 4 quarterbacks, they'll meet with the quarterback coach, and then I meet individually after Thanksgiving when they come back. I meet with every guy. So that's like 3 days of pretty long, when you got 80 to 90 guys to meet with. It's a tough 3 days, but it's important to do. To let them know where they stand in the program and what the future holds, and things of that nature. And I meet even with the seniors that are done playing. And I like to ask them a lot of questions. What can we do better? What did you like? What do you feel like we need to improve upon? So I'd like to get feedback from the older guys.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. This is a follow-up maybe that we've talked about the portal a little bit, but one fan wanted to know, when do the players let you know, or as far as if they're going in the portal?
Right. Well, they'll be doing it here with their position coaches or myself this week, if they're interested in going in the portal, unless there's some unforeseen circumstances. We kind of have a rule that if you ask to go in the portal, then it's peace be the journey, so to speak. Like, we're not bringing you back.
I think you and I have talked about that in a previous Hawk Talk, whether some coaches would bring you back.
Yeah, I mean, that makes
everybody
that's
has
like,
their own
we're
rule.
not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not doing that.
Okay.
It's not fair to the other players in the program. You know, if you want to be here and you're all in, you know, everything's fine. But if you're going to go in the portal, then you've already made your decision and you got to live with it.
Now, here's one. By the way, what the dates, the portal, now it's still twice, right?
There's so many different, it's insane. You know, we just have somebody on there starting now every day. And, you know, I mean, there's certain dates, but I see guys going in on dates that don't even exist. I see where well, it's open right now. Why aren't there any guys? It's just like utter chaos. But if you're in the portal, we'll know about it. You know, other players. Yeah.
My question for you is, will you attempt to get an 11th game next year?
Well,
I know you tried this year very, very hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, this 11th game thing has really gets me going a little bit. You know, because when we didn't have an 11th game, everybody complained about it. Okay, so we got Ashland. We've beaten them every time for our 11th game. We beat them this year at Ashland, and they get into playoffs, and we don't, with the same number of losses. So basically, and I'm fine with the Ashland series. We've got 2 more years with them, and I really enjoy playing them, and we've had a lot of success. But at the end of the day, our win over Ashland in the opener means absolutely nothing. Like, it doesn't help you. So at the end of the day, we'll look for an 11th game to replace Mercyhurst, but if we don't get it, I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Does it matter if it's home or away? Because you do have more home
Well, we
games.
got more home games, so we probably could go on the road, which would make it probably more feasible. I mean, teams, if you're looking for a team to play, they'd much rather play you at home.
Yeah.
So we couldn't have done that this year. We only had 4 home games to begin with. But, you know, you got to watch that because, like I said, you know, we went to Ashland, beat them pretty, you know, we controlled the whole game. We were leading from start to finish on the road, and we have the same amount of losses as they do, and they get in the playoffs and we don't because of earned access from the conference. You know, Coach Signetti, the big guy, used to say, just take the best teams. Don't worry about what conferences they're in. Just take the best teams. Because that's really what they do in the college football playoffs. Like, they're taking the best 12 or whatever number teams. They're not worrying about, after the 4 conference champions, they're not taking a team from another conference because they're the conference champions instead of taking, like, the 4th place team in the SEC. You know, so my whatever you want to call it, complaint about it is, and it just so happens that Ashland does get in. Well, we played them, you know, and we beat them in their stadium, and we have the same number of losses. So you know, you're going to put them in the playoffs because they're in a different conference. Like to me, if the 7 best teams are in the PSAC, take all 7 from the PSAC. Now that's not the case. You got really good Charleston team, obviously.
Sure.
You got New Haven up in the Northeast. Okay, but in this case, this happens to be a common opponent that we beat on the road. Now, if they only had 2 losses and we had 3 losses, because that's really all they look at is losses, how many losses you have. They're not worried about anything else. So my thing is always, okay, if you have the same number of losses as somebody, then if it's head-to-head, you got to take the team that won the head-to-head. Well, if it's head-to-head, we beat Ashland at Ashland.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Here's another question from a fan. What has Kutztown done in recent years to develop such an elite program?
Well, I think I answered that.
Yeah.
Half their teams from out of state.
Yeah.
And they only recruit half the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And they only have 2 portal guys. So they're not out there getting transfers in the portal. They're spreading their recruiting efforts out into other states. Now, does that mean they don't have out-of-state tuition? I don't know any of that. But something tells me they have some type of deal if half their team's from New Jersey and Delaware. Like, I don't know how you can survive with the scholarship limits and dollars by taking half your team from out of state if there's not a deal of, bordering states or whatever. I mean, I look at it this way. There's schools in the state of Maryland that are 2.5 hours from here. Well, there's schools in Philly that are 4.5 hours from here. But the out-of-state Maryland that's only 2.5 hours away is obviously out of state. It's actually closer than going to a school in Philly. But it's the state deal, and I get it. But, it's a thing that I've talked about since I've been here, even when I wasn't the head coach, that I just don't, I think, and I'm talking about regular students too. Like you could go down to the state of Maryland and get 300 students that don't even play sports to come to IUP, because of the institution and the academics, and there are other choices. But we don't even have many out-of-state students that aren't athletes.
Yeah. Here's one for you, and talked about your coaching staff and all that sort of thing. How do you replace Coach Declan Peer? He's graduating with 3 masters after he's been contributing for so many years. I talked with him earlier today at the women's basketball game. As a matter of fact, he was there as a director there.
Right. Well, he might have more degrees than our whole staff combined. No, he does a great job. He's got his hands in everything in the program. Like organized, does a great job. He's involved in everything. He really is. He if you want to say, hey, who's your director of football operations, it's him. It really is, because he does a lot of things that people don't realize. You got to understand, we don't have as many coaches now as we had when I became the head coach. We got hit, and lost a position, and like everywhere at the university, every area of the university has lost personnel, and we're like a coach and a half less now than we had when I first became the head coach.
What was the maximum number that you had at one time?
Well, we had 5 full-time coaches, not counting me. Now we have 4, and we have 1 less part-time coach than we had before.
Okay.
So people don't realize that, there's a lot more to running the program than just playing on Saturdays in the fall. You need support and personnel, to do things. I always say this, like, if you're a Division I head coach like Nick Saban and Dabo Sweeney and these guys that are coaching forever at these places, you could coach there for 30 years because you don't really do a lot. Like, I'm being dead serious. You coach the team, okay? You've got literally 40 to 50 guys on your staff, okay? So when you go into a staff meeting at these Power 5 schools, there's like 40 guys in there in the staff meeting, okay? So, like, you just handle what you handle, and you could coach at the same school for 25 or 30 years. The days of the Mel Churchmas at Northwest Missouri, the Frank Signettis at IUP, the Denny Dowds at East Stroudsburg, I could name a bunch of them. That's done.
Gene Carpenter,
that's done. At this position, after about a 10, 12-year run, it just gets hard to continue to do with less. in regards to personnel. And I get it. It's part of the whole university.
Yeah, it's part of
like there's people in different departments that are saying the same thing I'm saying. It's just the way it is. So I think the days of guys staying at a Division II school as a head coach for 20, 25 years, those days are over.
Well, stick around, will you? And we'll appreciate you a lot, believe me. I want to thank you for your time. Always available to us in the media, not just me, but all of us. And congratulations on a winning season. We'll go from here, and maybe we'll show up somewhere together with another show, huh?
Yeah, we'll probably do that somewhere down the road here.
Okay. Coach Paul Tortorella, 61-19, his overall record. Pretty doggone good. Hey, thanks to everybody. I want to thank Danielle Pisarczyk back at our studio, our producer back there, John Smathers, who operates things down here, and our entire crew. And thank all of you fans, too, and the coach and everybody. And we will see you soon, maybe in the spring, huh? Okay, with Hawk Talk. Jack Benedict here for the coach. Have a nice evening.
The following has been a special sports presentation of Renda.